This is Blood Red. I am Dan Austin. I'm joined by Joel Rabinowitz. We are from Liverpool.com, which is a new website that's got the best writing about Liverpool, at least we think, anywhere on the internet. So if you're into that kind of thing, make sure to check it out. For now, though, we're here to talk about Liverpool's pre-season tour of the United States and the things we're most excited about seeing, watching, finding out about more. And Joel, I think the first thing is that Sepp van den Berg's finally going to play a game for Liverpool. It feels like he's been here for about 5 years already. He didn't get to play against Tranmere. He still didn't get to play against Bradford because of the FIFA international clearance rules, whatever they actually mean. But he's going to play footy. That's exciting, isn't it?
It is, yeah. I don't exactly know why it takes so long to take out something that's presumably literally just an email or whatever it is that they have to do to get clearance for a guy. Is 17, 18? Yeah. So
maybe everyone who works for FIFA's like on holiday, basically.
Literally play some pre-season friendlies for Liverpool would be nice. Yeah, it's a strange one because we're all really excited to see him, and I think if you went back 2-3 weeks ago, most of us probably wouldn't have known who he was. But yeah, it is exciting. He's the second young Dutch defender that we've signed in the last year or so. Obviously, Hoover came from Ajax before, and he's another big name. Everyone's kind of looking forward to seeing how he develops. So it would be good to finally see him play. I think we've all seen a couple of minutes of him on YouTube playing in the Dutch league. I think played about 10 or 15 games in the senior team at Pek Zwolle last season. He looked massive.
He's like one of the aliens off Space Jam, isn't he? The video of him next to Klopp, where he's like comfortably taller than him, was crazy.
I think he's 6'4", 6'5". So keep signing lots of big Dutch defenders. It seems to work out well for us so far. But looking forward to it.
Well, speaking of them, I think this tells us a lot about Liverpool's sort of strategy as a whole, but certainly in defence. They had a problem at centre-back in 2017 and they went and spent £75 million on fixing it. And fix it they did. They bought the best one that's probably ever walked the earth. Now, there was still talk a little bit this summer amongst the supporter base about maybe going and signing a new one, maybe Lovren leaving and trying to sort of upgrade your fourth choice man. But Liverpool are at the point now, aren't they, where they've improved the first team so much that this sort of succession planning is taking place. So Van den Berg isn't bought, in my opinion, to play with Van Dijk at any point. He's bought to be the next Van Dijk, because when Van Dijk is 33, 34, Van den Berg will be 23, 24. So it's about that kind of passing the baton on.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think you look at the age of Liverpool centre-backs now, I think it's quite nicely kind of spread out as it is. We've got Van Dijk, he's just turned 28. So you'd hope that he's got another, centre-backs can go on for a while, obviously, but you'd expect he's got at least 2, 3, maybe even 4 years at a very high level left. You've obviously got Joe Gomez, who's in his early 20s still, and then you've got Matip and Lovren, who are a similar age as well. I think it's pretty obvious now Lovren's probably going to stay this summer. Klopp seems to want to keep him there, and I think as a fourth choice, that's pretty much as good as you're going to get. And like you say, it is nice to kind of, beyond those first four, who we all trust, we all want it to be Van Dijk and then one more, whether that be Matip or Gomez for the start of the season. We'll have to see. That's another thing to look out for in this tour. But having those two guys there, Hoover and Van den Berg, again, I think they're both 17 now. So you look to kind of ahead to 5 years' time. Van Dijk will be getting on a bit. You'd expect Matip and Lovren are probably gone by that point. And you don't want to be at a point where suddenly you're looking around and you've only really got two centre-backs and you need to go into the transfer market. So I think what Liverpool are trying to do is to kind of short-circuit that a bit and get these guys in whilst they're kind of 17. And you look at kind of the fee that's being talked about for De Ligt, somehow still hasn't happened yet, but it looks like he's probably going to end up at Juventus this summer. For a fee, roughly what Liverpool pay for Van Dijk is going to be around 70 million, I think. I think what Liverpool are trying to do is to find that next De Ligt before he explodes onto the scene and everybody wants him. Obviously it's hard to say kind of Hoover or Van den Berg are ever going to reach that level, but you look at Klopp's record of bringing through talent and kind of the amount of analytics that Liverpool put into finding these players when they're young. It is exciting, and I think I'd be surprised if we see a lot of them this season. They may get the occasional minute in the FA Cup or the League Cup depending on what teams we draw in the early rounds, but I'd expect to see some of them in the US, and it would be good to see them as well alongside the senior players. And especially with Van Dijk, there's not really a better role model to look up to for young defenders. So
supporters all summer long have been asking about new signings for Liverpool, and they are taking a new player. They are taking someone that wasn't there last season. They're taking Andy Lonergan, which I think he'd have got really good odds on at the beginning of the summer. He left Middlesbrough on a free transfer at the end of the season. He's been training with Liverpool because they've had barely any fit goalkeepers, or certainly ones that are available, because Alisson Becker is still on holiday after winning the Copa America. And now this fella who would have been expecting to maybe get a backup role in the Championship, maybe dip down to League One, gets to go on a trip at Liverpool. It's highly unlikely, I think, that they're going to decide to make him third choice behind Mignolet or something like that and give him a proper contract. But what a dream that is for a footballer at that stage of his career to get a call from Liverpool and go, fancy coming to Boston and New York and Indiana?
Yeah, it's not a bad deal as it is. Probably sat there on his sofa at home watching us win the Champions League, thinking, where am I going to end up next season? League One, League Two, Championship, and then there he is touring the US with the European champions. Like you said, I think he's 35. I can't really see Liverpool buying him or signing him on a contract. I think they find themselves in this weird predicament when they've got Kelleher and the other guy's name I can't pronounce. They're both injured.
Jarosz, I think.
Something like that. And then obviously Grabara is not back from pre-season yet because he's had some under-21 championship with Poland. He's gone to Huddersfield on loan for the season. Alisson's not yet back. So it's kind of Mignolet by himself. Liverpool do have a record of these mad goalkeeper signings. Obviously we had Alex Manningo, who was 38, 39 when we got him in. And
was essentially just a cheerleader by the sounds of it. He didn't do an awful lot of actually playing football.
He sounded like he was kind of John Atterbird's goalkeeping assistant.
Mate more than anything. Just someone to keep Acterberg happy.
Yeah, give him to someone to chat to. So, yeah.
There was Paul Jones as well, back in 2003, signed on loan from emergency loan when they were still a thing, from Southampton, and was the greatest goalkeeper of all time at Anfield against Aston Villa in the first game that he played. I must have been about 8 years old at the time. I was talking to a few mates and relatives yesterday about it, and everyone says the same thing, that Paul Jones came in, played this one match, and was incredible. He was like Levi Ashen, saving everything, commanding the box, talking. It was like he played for Liverpool for decades. So maybe Lonergan gets a game against Borussia Dortmund in South Bend, and suddenly they go, hang on, he's better than the fella that just won the Champions League and the Copa America. But it probably does make it less likely, the fact that the tour is pretty much on now, because they've travelled over there, Liverpool, on the chartered jet. It does make it less likely that they'll sign an actual new footballer, I would think, because first of all, he's got his group now. He gets to have a real good look at them in games against teams that are actually going to be a bit more competitive than the lower league English sides that Liverpool have played so far in pre-season. And also just the fact that all the staff are there in a totally different time zone makes me think it's a bit harder to be flying back and forth to another European country to do a deal with someone. They looked unlikely to be doing that anyway. Do we think that the group that he's taken with him, plus the ones that are still to come back who are still in international tournaments or on holiday, is what we'll be going into the start of the season with now?
I'm leaning towards thinking that, I think a lot of people throughout the summer have kind of taken Klopp's words with a pinch of salt, because, to be honest, he does lie a lot. He'll say stuff and then we'll go and do something else. I remember with the Oxlade-Chamberlain thing, he completely rubbished that once when he was asked in a press conference if you're ever going to buy him, and then obviously ended up happening. So, he is one where he says stuff and then things will happen and we will make moves that he said we wouldn't make. I think this summer I do believe him with that, for the reasons that you said. We're going to be in the US, just logistically as well. Under Klopp especially, Liverpool don't seem to kind of be drawn into late frenzies in the transfer market. They seem to kind of know their targets very early on, probably a summer ahead, and get them in early, so because Klopp likes to build up their fitness and have them ready to go into the new season with a full pre-season under the belt. So the idea of Liverpool kind of being on this tour and then either while they're on the tour or when they come back just before the season starts making any kind of major move, I just don't see it happening. As much as I do want one more to come in, I think he's going to go with it. And he was asked about that. He said, we've already got the new signings in, you just don't realise it. It is Oxlade-Chamberlain, it's Rhian Brewster. And I think I see his thinking now, and I think we've got a better manager on this one. He has just got 97 points and won a Champions League, so as much as we can all sit there and say, people on the internet will still tell him that he needs to sign this lad from who plays for Boca Juniors or whatever as part of his front three. And I think the one thing to say about that, I would like one more, as I said, in the attacking department, but I think we'll probably come to mention him a bit more now, but Rhian Brewster, if Liverpool had, say, signed a 50-60 million striker at the start of a transfer window, and they'd come in and played two halves of football in pre-season, scored 3 goals and got an assist and just looked the best player on the pitch when he's been on it, I think we'd all be really excited heading into the new season and thinking how great is that. We've got him and Origi and potentially Shaqiri, if he comes back from this injury, is back up for the front three. that the fact that he's been there for a while and he's been an academy player, I think means that almost kind of conversely we're not quite as excited as if he was a new signing. I think that's just something that we're always going to do as fans. We're always going to want a new big name, but I think if he carries on performing, and it'll be interesting to see how he does when he's not playing against Tranmere and Bradford, but if he can keep scoring those goals against Dortmund and Sevilla and Sporting, then I think we can really get excited about it.
I went to the two that they've played so far, so I've seen him in the flesh now, Brewster, for the first couple of times, and I'm convinced that he's going to score more goals than Pele. Even the extra ones that Pele was adding on that were made up, going to be the first one to legitimately score 1,000 goals in his career, Rhian Brewster. That's what I hope anyway. But just before we go, we'll talk briefly, because I'm really excited to just see them in America, because I'm incredibly fortunate in that I get to go to pretty much every Liverpool game that I want to go to. I was in Madrid and that kind of thing. They're going to now perform in front of supporters. They only get to see them at most once a year. And if they go to Australia, if they go to Southeast Asia, they don't get to see them at all, and it's on a rotation basis. It's brilliant to see the atmospheres in these grounds, I think. Firstly, because they're absolutely massive, the stadiums that they go and play in North America. But also because it's people who are absolutely delighted to see them, and they're not, as far as I'm aware, so bothered that Salah won't be there, that Mane won't be there, etc. They're just excited to watch Liverpool Football Club play a game, whoever turns up. And they do sort of nice community things there as well, the club, I think, from what I've seen. I really enjoy basically watching them go out there and seeing the little clips on social that supporters take who are not privileged enough to necessarily go and see them every single week, but get this opportunity and really take advantage of it.
Yeah, it's great. And I think one of the videos, I mean, I spent days after Madrid just watching everything that I could about the Champions League final, the goals, the reactions, everything. But one of the best things that Liverpool put out after that was that, I don't know if you saw, we did like a global reaction to Origi's goal, and they had clips from literally everywhere, from the US, from far-flung places in Asia, Africa, all over Europe, people reacting. And I think that's one thing that always amazes me when you kind of look at how mad into Liverpool people are in literally every part of the world. And I think that's something that's really exciting about this US tour, as we now go there, not just as kind of Jurgen Klopp's Liverpool, which is a big enough sell. We've seen it in the past few years. They've sold out stadiums in the US, but they're now going there with that big European champions tag. And I think that's obviously going to bring its own excitement, but I think you also get kind of a whole new wave of fans, really, maybe people who are kind of vaguely into English football or trying to get into it, or even just watched it because it's a big game and they knew it was on, and then they see Liverpool doing that in Madrid, and now they get to see them come to the US. I think that's really exciting, and I think in terms of the club's kind of growth over there, having 3 games like that is against kind of high quality European opposition as well. It's not kind of, they're not going to be non-entity games. You know, we're playing Dortmund, which has got its own kind of story with Klopp's former club and everything there. And I think, like you said, the fact that Mane and Salah and Firmino are not going to be there is kind of, it's neither here nor there really. They're going to get to see the European champions come to their country and play, especially in some kind of quite exciting grounds. In Notre Dame stadiums, never hosted football before. That's going to be a new one. So yeah, it's going to be great, and I think all the supporters are lucky enough to have tickets to have a great time for sure.
Speaking of American supporters and celebrations, there's a video on the Blood Red YouTube channel where some footage is being compiled of various supporters clubs, things that people have just taken in bars that they go to. So you have a look on the channel, just scroll down a little bit, and we'll put the link in the description as well. There's a video that shows that footage really brilliantly. It's absolutely fantastic. The atmosphere all around the world was brilliant for that. But for now, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you have, make sure to subscribe on YouTube to Blood Red. Also press the notification bell so that you don't miss any future videos. And finally, check out liverpool.com, because we've got loads of really good writing on there already, and there's going to be plenty more to come from America. We're sending Christian Walsh, who I'm sure you'll know out there. We've got me, Joel and Dan Morgan, who's our other staff writer back at base. We'll be covering everything, and it'll be really good. But for now, thank you for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.